This is the part 2 of iOS getting started and navigation tutorial. And in previous part that we talk about how we can use navigation controller to navigate from one scene to another. So in previous tutorial that we embed this data view controller on the navigation controller, and also we make the link from this add uh, UI dot bar item that UI bar button item to this scene, and also we learn how to embed this view controller on this navigation controller, and also we added two new bar button item. These are for the purpose of console and save. And if when we run this program, you will see something like um, we have this data view scene at the first as a first page of the app, and when you click on plus sign, and you will see something like text field and the image view. And here you can put some name, and when you press enter, it changes the title of this page. And also you can select and you can pick up the image that you want to. But we just finished this kind of linking the scenes from one to another, but we haven't implemented any of these cancel or save function yet. So in this tutorial, we will start implementing this save function. So let's stop this project running, and then to make this program to do the save function, that we need to put several codings. So let's start with the coding for view controller.swift file. So first thing first, that we will use um, a lot of error handling using the OS log. So we will declare this library in our view controller.swift file. So copy this part, and I go to view controller. So and then I will put as an import statement. And the second stage is that we will add the mail property. So this is the mail property that it will save the data of the mail information of the view controller page. So I will paste what I copy here. So this is a variable named mail, and it is a kind of object from the custom class mail. And this question marks mean that uh, this the assignment or initialization of these objects is not done yet, and it is a kind of optional, and we will do this initialization later on. So this is the meaning of this question mark. Okay, the next stage is that we will implement the prepare for sender method in the mail view controller. So it is a part of the navigation, so I want to copy this part from mark navigation up to this place, and I will go to the mail view controller, and I will put it just before the closing curly bracket of the program. So this part is a part of navigation, so we put the comment like / mark and navigation, and this is the code. Oh, I see that there is an error. It's showing that it doesn't know about the save button. So that means there is no reference with the name save button in this example. Alright, so to make it clear, let's go back to main storyboard. and I will go to the uh, mail scene, and I will open up this assistant editor view and make sure that it is opening the mail view controller.zip file. And here I will make an outlet of this save bar button to this code mail view controller. So I will press the control key and drag and drop just just above the IP outlet group. And here I will make it like the connection type is outlet, because we are not um, doing the we are not taking the direct action. We just want a reference for this save button. So I will name it as save button, and the type is UI bar button item, and connection storage type is weak. I click on it. So now we have the name. We have a reference for this UI bar button with the name save button. Alright, let's go back to main view controller, and I will go to normal text editor. So now your code, earlier it is complaining that it doesn't know about save button, but now it's happy now. So look at this, because we have a save button here, and this is the code that is referring to. So let me explain a little bit about this code. So this is we are overwriting a kind of navigation delegate function, and is propel for Cgage, UI storyboard Cgage, and sender can be anything. So before we do anything, we just call the superclass to do necessary things. And what we are trying to do now is we do the two actions. The first one is that we receive this sender, and we do the typecasting as a UI bar button item, and we assign this object reference in as a name as button. And this is the first operation that we did, and in this case let, and we assign this. And the second thing is that the button that we just assign, and we just declare and assign the button constant reference, it is exactly equal to the save button that we have in this system. So it is equal mean not just the nature or type of the UI element, is also the reference is also the same. So to check about this kind of AZ um, equal, we use 3 equal signs for this. So in this case that we try to typecast and assign as a button. This one should be successful. That means this one should return the Boolean value true, and also this reference comparison also should be true. If these kind of things happen, then we can move on to this stage. Or otherwise, if there is any error, that this got else and curly bracket statement will jump in, and it will write the log file about the problem, and it will stop the program by calling the return statement. So we assume that this will go well, and if it is going well, then we will do this kind of we will prepare these 3 values: name, photo, and rating. So for the name, that we will get the test from the mail test field, and if there is no name from that mail test field, if there is nothing type or written inside type in the name mail test field, then we will put the kind of blank string. And this is the we get from the photo image view, and we get the image, and we get a reference. And for the rating, that in this tutorial, that to make it simple, we don't um, we don't talk about the custom view, about managing and drawing the stars. So we will just use the default value like 3. So these are the 3 values. Using these 3 values like this here, and we create a me object, and we assign this me object to this global class level variable of the meal, this one. Okay, this is the one that we declare at the beginning of this program, meal. So we can assume that if before the before the control goes to the uh, another another page, that before moving the before passing the control to another view controller or another scenes, that we will the app delegate will call this prepare statement, prepare for CK statement, and we can assume that the data will be necessary data will be stored in this mail object. Okay, so this is the things that we wrote inside the mail view controller. So in this case, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to implement this save operation, and we are preparing that. Okay, let's take a look. So we have this data view controller and just meal view controller, and they are connected with the navigation controller. So, and it also show as a kind of a model view. So that means that this view controller is showing on top of this data view, and when we put some data in it and when we save it, then it prepare the data and put it inside the mail object, and then we will pass the control back to this table view. And from the table view, that what we need to do is that we need to retrieve the data object from this scenes, and then we need to put that data as a new cell into this table view. So we need to write some code inside this. So let's write this code. So enter the gist inside the gist file that I name it as a session 3 coding for meal table view controller .swift file, and that the first thing is we want to make this action, and so I will copy this part and I will go to the meal table view controller .swift file, and I will scroll down a little bit, and I will paste right here just after the load sample meals. Okay, so this is a kind of function, and this is the name that whatever name that you want to give, you can name it. Here let's call it adding to me list, but the distinct thing is that we declare as ib action for this function. So that means that this function can be called from the storyboard, and we can perform some operation. So this function is open to the storyboard connection hooking. So in this function, what we do is that so we are trying to do 2 operation. The first thing is that we try to declare a constant called sourceViewController using the center.source. So center is basically it is a UI storyboard CH. So it is after getting the reference of the CH, what we can do is that we have the reference for source and destination. So in this example, that in this tutorial that if you look at in main storyboard, if you look at from this point and if you look at this C gauge, then what you can see is that uh, after doing some kind of modification, and this will call, and this will pass the C gauge back to this. So in this case, the control move from this to this, and um, so for this C gauge, the source file is this one, and destination file is this one. So if we have the reference of this C gauge, what we can get is we can use this reference of the C gauge and we can bring out this source or destination. So in this code, that what we are trying to do is, sorry, we should look at the view, main table view controller. So we are using this C gauge reference as a sender, and we call it as dot source. So that means that is a mail view controller. So we get the reference of the mail view controller and we name it as a source view controller using this kind of typecasting. We do this operation, and after doing operation we also try to do another assignment, that we make a constant object reference that from this source view controller dot mail. That means the mail object from mail view controller file, that we retrieve that mail object and then we get a reference and we will call it inside this block as mail. So now what we have is that we will have the data from that source mail view controller, and and then this thing is that we want to get the index part. That means the next cell of the table view. In the table view, let's say if it has three table cells. In this case, the next coming cells will be, the index number will be 3, because index start from 0, 1, and 2, and then the next cell, the cell to be added should be index number 3. So to get that number, because we have 3 cells, that means that main store count can return the value 3. And the session is, we have only one session, so session 0. So using the index part method and the row and the session value, then we will get a kind of new index part. So this two operation is what we are trying to do is we will append a mail object to our mails array, and also to the table view, that we will insert the rows at the new index part, that means at the end of the table, and with automated refresh and show. Alright, so now we have implemented two methods, one in the mail view controller and another in mail table view controller. So now we need to link these two things together. So what we have to do is that let's go back to main storyboard, and we have implemented about prepare for CGH method, and we also have implemented about adding to this mail table view. So we will call this method. So when the user tap on this, that what we want to do is we want to dismiss this view and we want to go back. So I will press the control key. I will select this save. I will press the control key, and you see that there are 4 icons here, and the last icon, it means exit. So I will drag and drop to this. So that means that when the user tap on save button, that I want the app delegate to exit to dismiss this view. And when I release it, it's saying that owing to me list view with sender. You see that the action C gauge, and we have only one IV action that is available to this C gauge, and that is the one that we define here with the name and went to me list with sender. So I will select this one. All right. So now what we can do is we can hit and run and see how it's work. So I click here and I type something like fall crispy, whatever, and I select a photo of waterfall, and when I click the save button, and it add to a new cell, new table cell with the photo we selected and with the name we give, and the rating is the default value 3. Alright, so these are the things that we need to do to save a new meal into our meal table view. So the next stage, what we want to do is that it is in the session 4. What we want to do is that when we are running this, for example, when I click the plus sign, that we are going and we can stay save it even though there is nothing being added. We can save it, and sometimes we can type and we save it. Something like this can happen. So what I want to do is that if we don't type anything, we don't want them to click, and we want to disable this. So we will control the behavior of this save button. So to do this, first thing what we need to do is that we will create a kind of private method. So I copy this code and I put in the mail view controller.swt file. So this is the mail view controller.swt file. So I will paste this code right under this view did load method, and this is basically what it's trying to do is that it's trying to retrieve the test from the me test field, and if there is no test in it, we will just put the empty string, and we check it test is empty. If it is test is empty, then we don't want to we want to disable it. That means we want to assign the false value to this is enable properties. So if the test is empty, it become true, and when we use this exclamation mark, it is a negating this value, so true become false, and we will assign that for value false to this save button is enabled. So if we have some tests in the meal test field, then we will have some tests in this test reference, and then we will check it. Is test is empty, in this case false, and when we negate it, the value become true. So we will say it is basically we are saying that save button dot is enable is become true. So basically we are checking the test field and we are setting the appropriate behavior about enable yes or no, enable true or false. So the first thing first that we will call this method from the view did load, because we want to make sure that very first time before the final view is shown on the screen, that we want to check it and make the necessary enable or disable decision. So the next stage is that we want to modify a little bit. So I will copy this UI test field delegate method. So I will copy only this because I think we have some other delegate methods already used there. So we will just need this block. I copy this and I scroll down a little bit, and you can see that there are several UI test field delegate already being used. So I paste this here. So basically what it's trying to do is that when the test fee did begin editing, then we say that we should save pattern become uh, disable. That means enable set to false. And the next thing that what we want to do is that when the test fee did end editing, then what we will do is we will call this method when the test fee did end editing. So basically, when the user that means when the user press enter, then we will check this kind of uh, test fee and we will do the necessary thing. Sometimes user type nothing but just press enter. So we still need to check whether we have some content test inside the test fee or not. So we do this operation and then we also set the title using the test from the test field. So these are the things that we do. And the last thing that we want to do here is the cancel button. Up to now, cancel button doesn't work at all. So we want to write some code. So I will copy this code and I will do some kind of modification in the storyboard. So I will go to the main storyboard and I will do some kind of things. So I will open this um, kind of assistant editor and make sure that you are looking at the uh, correct file. Here, look at this. It is setting to manual and may view controller.swift, but it is not the code file and it is a kind of interface file. So we shouldn't do any modification to the interface. So you can go to automatic and may view controller.swift, and this is the one that we want to do. So we have three IB outlets. So I want to add a kind of IB action. So I will make the space under this block of IB outlets. And I click on cancel. I press the control key and drag and drop to this code. And release it. And the connection type is action. And I want to give the name cancel. So I start with a small c because it is the name of the method. But what happen is other method they have like 2-3 words like view did load. So the first one start with small, but second and third one with the capital letter. But here we don't have that long name, so I use all the letters to be small letters. And I click connect and I paste what I copy from the code just fine. So basically it is trying to dismiss. That means it will release this view controller animated through. We will do nothing after the dismissal of the view. Alright, this is the end of the part 2 of iOS getting started tutorial navigation part. So if you run this program, what you can see is that all the buttons should be working now. So something like I click on it, and when I start typing and when I press enter, this became enable, and I can select it, and if I say cancel, it will go back to this. Go again. You cannot click on this, and if I click press enter, even though I press enter, it doesn't become enable because nothing there. Press save. Okay, this is the end of the part 2 tutorial.